Good afternoon. My name is Chris Conetzkey. I'm the group publisher of Business Publications Corporation. Welcome to our second of our 3 virtual think tanks in our Envision Iowa series. Before we begin, we are in meeting style today, which means you can be seen. If you'd like to be off camera, you may choose to do that as well during the program portion of our event. But later on, we are going to go ahead and allow folks to interact with each other in some breakout rooms. And at that point, we'd love to have you on screen so everybody can put a name to a face. Envision Iowa is an initiative that was created by Business Publications Corporation in 2021 to help Iowa thrive and grow. In 2020, in the midst of the pandemic, we had asked ourselves how we as a media company could help Iowa's economic recovery and also help us align for a future where we could have some growth. As we often do, we asked and listened to the experts. We conducted a series of focus groups that ultimately led us to identify a few key themes and needs among statewide leaders. The desire for a forum to have discussions about economic challenges and opportunities here in Iowa. Out of this listening, we created and launched Envision Iowa. Ultimately, the goal of Envision Iowa is to strengthen Iowa's business and communities through strategic connections, powerful storytelling, and amplifying the message of Iowa, which we believe leads to better collaboration and, of course, more importantly, action. Envision Iowa has 3 main components. The first component is what we're doing today. That includes the 3 think tanks that we're doing. This one, we did one on people and culture in August, this one on September, and our 3rd think tank, which will be on September 19th. Then our public event, which will be on October 22nd. We're going to get everybody together to amplify the discussion of the topics that we've talked about in the think tanks. We're going to dig into the Envision Iowa Statewide Leaders Economic Sentiment Survey, which we're doing in partnership with local consulting firm Baton Global. The public event is going to be held from 4 to 6 in person here in Des Moines and is being sponsored by the Iowa Economic Development Authority, the Iowa Business Council, the Des Moines International Airport Authority, and the Iowa Credit Union League. Corporate tables are now available, and that gets you tickets for a table to the event, along with advertising and the executive summary of the survey that we'll publish in the business record and on our digital platforms. If you're interested in learning more, we're going to put a link in the chat so you can learn a little bit more about that. You can also learn more at businessrecord.com/Envision Iowa. Lastly, one of the goals of this series is to make sure that we're covering and infusing statewide economic development coverage into all of our products. We view ourselves as an economic development organization that uses information and storytelling to provide the tool of information and news for business and community leaders to help leverage so they can do business better. So this series is really going to help us highlight those stories. You're going to see coverage from this discussion matriculate itself into all of our products, digitally, print products, and of course some of the events that we're doing as well. We're excited that you are here to help shape that. Before we dive into today's program and I give you kind of the rundown of what's all going to happen, we'd like to thank our supporting sponsor today, Debbie DeCamp, the Chief Marketing Officer of Wellbe is here. Wellbe was formerly named American Enterprise Group and has gone through a major rebrand, which Debbie will probably tell you about. And we are excited about their new name, impressed by their continued commitment to their clients and to innovation within the insurance industry here in Iowa and beyond. So Debbie, thanks for being here and thanks for being a great supporter of this program.
Thank you, Chris, and hello and welcome everyone. I won't spend time talking about brand only because then I won't leave time for this great conversation we're going to have, but I am really happy to be here representing Wellbe for a great discussion surrounding business opportunities. As a company that has appreciated Iowa's strong business climate for 95 years, we are committed to supporting initiatives that help us all thrive and grow, and that's why we are so excited to sponsor this event. We understand the importance for businesses to embrace change, encourage their teams to think differently, and leverage opportunities. I do want to thank the Business Record for bringing us all together today, as well as the panelists and all of you joining us. We're looking forward to a great conversation that will get us all thinking and continue to move Iowa forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie, and thank you for the support of the program. We appreciate it. All right, here is an overview of how today is going to work. Today is going to be interactive, and we're going to be moving pretty fast to provide you both with some information from our speakers, our research partners, and a panel, and also opportunities for you to connect with fellow attendees at the end of the program today. So we've got a keynote. We're going to kick off with an interview with Brian Waller, the president of TAI. We're going to give you a sneak peek from Wade Britt. He's the managing director at consulting firm Baton Global. He's going to look at some of the initial results from our business in the business opportunities category related to the Envision Iowa statewide leaders economic outlook survey. That survey in its entirety is being worked on right now. He's deep into it, trying to analyze the data so that we can put together a report that you'll see at the main event that really dives deep into each of the areas. So he's just going to be giving you a little bit off the top of some of the things that he's seen so far as he's been analyzing the data. After hearing from Wade, we've got a panel discussion of top statewide leaders on our theme of business opportunities. And then after that, we're going to go to a breakout session. You can meet others from across the state. I know not everyone is always up for or meeting new people and being in the breakout sessions. We highly encourage you to stick around for that part of it. 85% of respondents from past events have said that they've made new connections from that breakouts. That's really the point, is to help you meet some people from across the state in some different industries as well. So ultimately, what can you expect to get out of the think tanks? What we really hope you do today is get an opportunity to listen to some experts, hear some research, and to connect and share ideas around these key themes. As a media company, we feel it's our role to be a convener that brings together statewide economic development, chamber, and business leaders to ask questions, to spur discussions, and to get you as leaders together so you can take those ideas and those connections and then advance us as a state. We've got a great group from across the state. If you'd like to, in the chat right now, go ahead and put your name, your information in, where you're from, so that we get kind of a snapshot from across the state. I'm going to go now and introduce Brian Waller. Brian, welcome.
Hey, Chris.
We appreciate you being here today. Brian is the president of the Technology Association of Iowa. He's working each and every day through TAI to invest in Iowa's technology and innovation ecosystem to help Iowa businesses from across the state. I'll let Brian tell you a little bit more about himself and the work of the organization, but I wanted to invite him in today because not only does he have a great sense of what specific industries are really emerging in the state, but because technology and innovation really spans every industry in the state as well. So if we're talking about growth opportunities, what better way to amplify and accelerate growth than to explore what needs to happen for businesses and communities to be able to support and embrace all those benefits. Brian, welcome.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about some of the emerging growth industries that you are seeing across the state?
Sure. If I could just a little briefly, a little bit about the Technology Association of Iowa for those that might not know. Around 30 years ago, the state government was hearing from all the major employers that said, if we want to accelerate growth in every industry, we need information technology employees and professionals. And that's going to drive the growth. And so they also were hearing from web development companies and software development companies in the state. And so they needed to put an association around that. And so close to 30 years later, the Technology Association of Iowa exists. Our mission is to build and unite Iowa's dynamic technology innovation industry. Our board of directors is comprised of the CIO, or the top technology executives of all the major companies that are really right there with emerging technology that are helping these industries grow. You mentioned what is helping emerging growth within these industries. Well, when we look at the state of Iowa, we look at the key technology sectors, or the verticals, as we should say. We think about manufacturing, we think about agriculture, finance, healthcare, retail. But there's a horizontal that's going through all of those that accelerating the growth of these industries, and that is technology and innovation. And the individuals that are making that happen, we like to say there's no such thing as business, there's only people. And the people that are doing that are information technology professionals. And so within those industries, there are some that are having some accelerated growth. The reason for that growth is they are using emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, automation, the Internet of Things, cybersecurity, and data analytics. All of these emerging technologies are embedded in these key industry sectors in the state of Iowa that are really propelling growth in some of these sectors.
Great. Tell me a little bit about, one of the things that you've talked about is kind of that horizontal component of things, and the fact that technology is really across every industry. And talk a little bit about maybe what some of the growth areas are that are providing industries with new opportunities.
Sure. Let's look at some of the oldest industries in the state of Iowa. Let's look at agriculture and banking. So we're an ag state. We feed the world. That's what we do. I can look at a picture of my grandfather years ago of him plowing a field with a horse. In the last 10 years, these two industries have seen some dynamic change. And let's pull the thread of agriculture. Right here in the state of Iowa, we are creating precision agriculture. What does that mean? Where we're getting the most out of every crop. We're thinking about process automation, the data analytics within that, crop management, soil health. So not only are you having precision agriculture or an autonomous combine in a field, but they're capturing data constantly with soil health and things like that. So the data that they're capturing, making the products better. And so you look at banking. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of brick and mortar banks that are being built in small town Iowa today. But the customer experience, that user experience in that banking now is a digital experience. And so that is vastly different than it was 10 to 15 years ago. I personally haven't been into a bank in a very, very long time. I deposit checks in that manner. I do transfers. And we're seeing lots of banks becoming members of the Technology Association of Iowa because they know that if this isn't a digital experience, if we're using artificial intelligence to do customer service feedback, if we're using this digital environment, we need to protect the data. We need to have that seamless customer experience. And they know they need to be cybersecurity experts, data analytics experts. And so that whole digital space is moving. And so you think about agriculture and you think about banking, those are two old industries in the state of Iowa that have embraced this new digital way of doing business, and they are accelerating growth in these two dynamic industries.
So you mentioned a couple of really good use cases of some different industries. I wonder if you might have a few other examples that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I think people are getting tired of the word artificial intelligence, but that we're just at the beginning of this. And I'll have two examples. Artificial intelligence seems scary to some people, but I can tell you from our board of directors standpoint, they could not be more excited about this opportunity. And two use cases. One is in healthcare. Physicians want to see patients. They don't want to do charting and some of these low cognitive tasks. Through artificial intelligence now and machine learning, it can anticipate and kind of take that time away from the doctors to let them have more time in their patients than doing those low cognitive tasks. If you think about our world of information technology, an information technology professional builds software, they do code. Well, now when you're coding, there's artificial intelligence that can anticipate that next line of code. So, years ago, you would spend 8 hours with your fingers on the keyboard building code. Now what took you 8 hours can take you 2 hours. So imagine that impact of an information technology professional that has an extra 6 hours of their day to utilize different parts of their business and different parts of information systems. And those are two examples that you're seeing, and it's so early in this artificial intelligence conversation. We like to say artificial intelligence is going to make humans and Iowa employees really superhuman. And I think that's an awesome thing for the future of Iowa.
I think it's really interesting when you sat on the panel last year for the Business Record Power Breakfast on this topic on AI. And one of the things that I think can be tough sometimes is a lot of the ways most people are interacting with AI right now are around content generation, things on your phone, where it's nice that Meta can send a funny looking GIF of some information that I put in there. But so sometimes I think it is kind of hard for folks to see what that continuum really looks like on how it could be used when it's not just for content generation. You mentioned a couple good examples. What are some things though that maybe communities should be thinking about or businesses thinking about, again, related to AI that maybe would be a practical step in the right direction?
Data. And so you're capturing data. And so what kind of data are you capturing? There's a saying when you're using artificial intelligence or generative AI, garbage data in is going to get garbage output. And so you have to understand of what data you're putting in these models. You're capturing data constantly. So you have to refine that data. I talked about precision agriculture. John Deere, I was in John Deere the other day, and they were saying they took their autonomous vehicles and up to Minnesota, and they kept shutting down in the fields because the mosquitoes were sensing those things. That's how sensitive those are. But they captured that data, and they're making their better products because of that data. And so with artificial intelligence and with organizations, what are you doing with your data? But also, what are your governance around your data? And what do you have access to? And what does your customers understand of what you're doing with their data? So it all comes down to refining your data so you get good output.
Well, I imagine I'm going a little bit off script here for a second, but Iowa specifically as a state, how do we fit into that landscape? Obviously, there's a lot of places where this is being developed in specific areas, but the tools can be used anywhere. Does it level the playing field? Does it make it that Iowa really does have a good opportunity here to take a lead in some of this?
Absolutely. And when you think about data privacy at its very core, look around the state of Iowa and you see the data centers from Meta, Microsoft. You look at all these. What is that? They are securing highly sensitive data for organizations worldwide. and they're doing that right here in the state of Iowa. So I think that's a sense of pride that we can secure data, but also those two old industries that I talked about that are now emerging. You know, I was leading the way in agriculture and feeding the world, and we're teaching others how to do it as well. And so I think you look at those industries, and it's just a showcase of what Iowa can do.
Well, to change gears just a little bit, what are maybe some challenges that you're seeing that may be prohibiting some of the growth or the use of technology for Iowa's economy?
Yeah. So challenges for Iowa's economy. Number one is workforce. Okay. Number two, I think, is a little bit of trepidation in leaning into innovation in innovating for your industry. If you think about workforce, that's going to be something we bring up at every single probably business record event when we talk about challenges for our state of Iowa. But in this technology industry, they've kind of figured something out here. And we have to look at modern education and how we learn right now and work-based learning. So in the technology industry, I'll use an example of cybersecurity. You would think to be a cybersecurity professional, you have to have a 4-year degree and a master's. Well, that's not true at all. Cybersecurity firms here in the state of Iowa are finding young, talented people that are curious, that are really into cybersecurity and really into those things, but don't have a degree. Well, they'll hire them. And instead of them living on the outskirts of being a hacker, they will be a hacker within an organization that will go in and do penetration testing. Another example of that, I would say, is a friend of mine's wife was doing editing dissertations, and she didn't want to do that anymore. She took a 2-year community college class here in Iowa, is now working for a software development company. And so with workforce, we have to look at different models of a 4-year education, because in the technology industry, we are finding ways to get people in, and they are embedded in organizations. The other thing is we are a conservative state here in Iowa. We play it safe, but that's not how innovation is moved. Innovation is moved through disruption. And so we need to think like that more. And so a challenge for some of the Iowans and the organizations I walk into is they have a little trepidation around the words of artificial intelligence and data analytics. So I think those are some challenges, but some opportunities within those as well.
Well, go ahead and talk a little bit about that then. We've talked challenges, maybe some other opportunities that you see that maybe aren't quite going untapped or that maybe we're pursuing, but would use a little bit of energy behind them.
Sure. The first one, I'll go back to data. Again, you're harnessing your data. What are you doing with that? Are you monetizing your data? Are you analyzing your data? And so think about any organization as a technology company and making business decisions off of that. So that's very important, especially as artificial intelligence begins to grow and becomes more central to businesses. You're going to have some real clean data. The second thing I would say is don't be siloed within your industry. It can be very easy if you're in the ag industry to stay in that silo, manufacturing, healthcare. But one of the neatest things that I get to see is we have a cybersecurity roundtable quarterly. And I sit in a room next to the top technology cybersecurity executive for the top healthcare system in Iowa, next to the top manufacturer, next to the top retailer in Iowa. And they're talking about cybersecurity threats. I can tell you it's more enriching experience for them, and the state will benefit when we are not siloed within industry. Sure, there are some nuances within your industry, but don't be siloed within your industry. And at TAI, we really get together and bring people together from different walks of life and different industries. And I think that's where innovation and disruption happens. And so again, it goes back to data, protect your data, and also get out of your silo of your industry and see what other technology executives and professionals are doing in their industries.
Well, the folks here today are doing that a little bit, which is also nice when we're able to get folks from across the state. So it's been nice that's been one of the joys of kind of seeing Envision operate, is you're getting businesses interacting with each other that don't normally interact or partner together in certain ways. And you're in the same room together, chewing on similar topics that span across those industries. So, all right, last question for you is, what resources, advice would you give to provide to communities perhaps that are wanting to lean into technology or accelerate those growth?
Sure. I would be remiss if I didn't say the Technology Association of Iowa. This is what we do. We cross-pollinate with different industries and different sectors, but the whole theme for us is that information technology professional. That's number one. With communities, I would say internet access. I know we're going to say that till we're blue in the face, but what kind of fiber do you have to the homes? How affordable is it? Can you work remotely from a small community in Iowa? That's number one. Number two is, I get it. I'm from Sioux City, Iowa. Chambers of commerce there, economic development groups. You look around their boards, they're presidents and CEOs of companies in their communities. That's great. Seek out those information technology professionals in your communities. Look at that big manufacturing plant and see it as a technology company, and try to find the person in that organization who is doing the information technology in that organization. And I think that's going to be very powerful and eye-opening to look at that company in a unique way and get the voices of these technology professionals and those entrepreneurs in your space. I would look at the business record as a great resource. Obviously, the Iowa Economic Development Authority and Director Durham, IWD with Director Townsend, they have their eye on the ball. They know what they're doing. They're a great resource. But I want to close with this one. One of your panelists right here, Mike Ralston, I want to give a shout out to, and ABI, they're a wonderful organization. 10 years ago when I got this job, I looked over and I thought, boy, ABI is a really special association in the state of Iowa. So I picked up the phone and I called Mike Ralston, and he gave me advice and help, and he's done that for the last 10 years. And I cannot tell you how valuable Mike and ABI have been for this state and for me professionally. And so I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out and thank you to Mike, what he's done for me and the state of Iowa. And so thank you for your time today, Chris.